What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expivia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expivia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expiviausa.com for more.
This is Advice from a Call Center Geek, a weekly podcast with a focus on all things call center. We'll cover it all from call center operations, hiring, culture, technology, and education. We're here to give you actionable items to improve the quality of yours and your customers' experience. This is an evolving industry with creative minds and ambitious people like this guy. Not only is his passion call center operations, but he's our host. He's the CEO of Expivia Interaction Marketing Group and the Call Center Geek himself, Tom Laird.
What's up, everybody? Hey, listen, I want to take you through 21 questions that we ask when we consult. So if you kind of take these questions, you can almost do your own consulting, right? Or dig deeper into your contact center. You know, I think this kind of gets to the heart of culture, of technology, of how you operate. And, you know, I go through this with my contact center every single year, right? We ask these 21 questions. You know, our staff gives kind of the answers, or we want to see if we want to evolve something or change something, right? So this is kind of some of the questions that we're asking is number one, you know, what are we tolerating, right? We used to say on the call center floor, and are we all kind of equal in that? Like, do we have some consistency with how we are, you know, handling our agents, how we're talking to our agents? And I think if you don't do that and you don't kind of benchmark your supervision, you can cause a lot of issues with your agents because, well, she's nicer, he's mean, I can do that over here, I can't do that here. Why won't you let me do that? I did that all the time with you know, Susie's supervisor. And I think it's really, it's a slippery slope that can really have an impact on your culture. So making sure that, you know, you guys are talking that through, that you're all on the same page about kind of what is allowed, and, you know, even what is allowed in your Slack channels or your Teams or your whatever you're using from an IM standpoint, right? Sometimes there can be some inappropriate things that kind of sneak through there. Making sure that everybody understands kind of what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. The legality of this as well, right? When we were talking about legal things, when you're actually in the call center, you know, being careful of sexual harassment, being careful of certain things that you say, I think is really important. You know, the other question is, have you defined your culture of your contact center? And I know that sounds like kind of sometimes like a pie in the sky kind of. There's really no use to that. Sorry, I'm gonna pull this other thing up. But the culture of your contact center is different than the culture of your organization. What are you looking for? Are you looking for customer service agents? Are you looking for sales agents? Are you looking for, you know, individual players? Are you looking for team players? You know, for us, we have defined our culture as we say, a sunshine attitude with an entrepreneurial mindset. It boils down to attitude and effort. So we are incenting, we're hiring, and we're promoting only on the two pillars of attitude and effort. And I think if you can define what the culture is of your contact center, you can then go to HR and you can say, listen, these are the type of individuals that really work well in our environment. And you kind of get away from that, hey, well, this person just applied and they have 15 years of call center experience. Might not be a really good fit for your exact contact center. And I think a lot of mistakes get made when that happens. You know, some of the other things too. Do you have a management trainee program in place? Is there something that you can? You know, everybody talks about, and I think everybody understands that if we just pull an agent who's a really good agent and just make them a supervisor, that can be the worst possible thing that we can do, right? It can just a ton of issues because maybe they're not good leaders. Maybe they don't understand, you know, how to motivate. You know, we just assume that if you're a good agent, you're going to be a good leader. So it's really important to have even a really basic, couple week, meet once a week kind of thing from a management trainee standpoint, and really try to instill some leadership qualities into that manager who's not going to take over a team for the very first time after they've been a really, really good agent for a really long time. I think that's really important. Another question that we're always asking is how are you investing in technology? Is there a specific budget for that? And what are some of the needs, and kind of prioritize the needs of what you have, right? So for needs for your contact center, I would say, right, first is omni-channel, right? You're blocking and tackling. So email, chat, voice, SMS, all that kind of stuff, right? The second, I think, most important piece is your QA platform, right? Having really good quality, understanding how reps are going to be scored, and making sure that everybody's kind of on the same page with that. After you kind of have I think those are again, I keep using blocking and tackling. Those are the really two most important pieces of this that you have to have if you're going to be a really good contact center. And then you can get to the fun stuff, right? If you're a bigger call center, looking at workforce management, looking at speech analytics, looking at some higher end integrations with your data into your contact center. I think, those are kind of the wants instead of the needs. So, looking at that budget, seeing where the call center is right now, and then making those kind of little improvements, or having a plan of where we want to invest in the future with some type of either cloud telephony platform, or if we want to integrate speech analytics from another provider. And that kind of gets me to process, right? So many call centers are very disjointed with their agents, right, from a technology standpoint. So you're going from this screen to that screen to this screen to that screen. Nothing's integrated with the telephony platform. And I think, people talk about, well, we want to get more, more technologically advanced. We want more tools. And a lot of the time it's less tools and more integrations of what you are doing, with those tools. So, right. So moving everything to single sign-on, moving everything to be integrated with your platform, being able to look into your data, into your CRM, and do screen pops, right? So when a customer calls, instead of you going through all this kind of verification, looking at the phone number, popping the customer's information before they even get to the agent. Those are really kind of easy wins that you can get that do not cost a lot of money, just with some really simple programming now. Pre-built integrations are available for all of the off-the-shelf CRMs, right? Zoho, Zendesk, Salesforce, you name it. They can be easily integrated really into any telephony platform. But if you have your own proprietary system, those can be done too, right? Very easily, we can just, with some API development, not that difficult, not that hard, right? Can integrate that platform, into your telephony. And I think it makes your agents' lives so much easier. Another question we ask that a lot of call centers are not doing is, what are your main KPIs, right? How are you benchmarking your KPIs? What are your agents? Are you using your reporting platform properly, right? So when we talk about efficiency metrics, we're talking things like service level, average handle time, talk time, occupancy, those types of metrics that if you have any questions on that, I can get deeper into it. So we want all those benchmark, what is the percentage of calls that we're trying to answer within a certain period of time? That's your service level, right? So for us, for most clients, it's an 80-30. 80% of the calls answered within 30 seconds or less. And some clients can go, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but that's about the average. White glove service is normally a 90-10. So 90% of the calls answered within 10 seconds or less. So how are you benchmarking that? How are you defining really what those metrics are? Handle time should be benchmarked as well. I talked about this in the last live, right? Understanding where agents are, and who, if anybody has longer handle time and shorter handle time. And if they're outside of those norms, that there's something going on with that agent. And I think it's important that we kind of look to see what is happening with that agent. If they have really long calls, maybe they're not controlling the call. Maybe they have the customer on hold asking questions. Maybe they're just not as knowledgeable. And short can be just as scary as long, right? Because we may have people, ditching calls or just not going through all the things that they need to do. So I think, those are really, really important, aspects of it. So that's benchmarking your efficiency. And then we want to benchmark your quality as well, right? So, what is, a fail for a scoring on your QA? What is a pass? What is a excellent, right? It's normally 90 and above is great. 80 and above a lot of times is kind of a fail. And then if they do something like they're not verifying or there's a disclosure not read, those are auto fails, right? So having that and having your agents understand, what those scores mean, is I think a really, really, really important, thing to do. So if you then have to benchmark your efficiency KPIs, benchmark your quality KPIs, a lot of call centers they're not doing that. Getting into kind of, I guess, the more cultural aspect, one of the things that I just did a video on this today that we don't think about is how does your middle management talk to each other, right? We always talk about how middle management talks to agents, and what is appropriate, what is not, how do we coach, those kind of things. But just as important is how they're talking to their peers, because the agents hear everything, or now they read everything, depending, if you're in a Slack or you're in a Teams. And, if cliques start to develop between your management, if your one manager starts to pick on the other one, if other one says, hey, they stink, they're terrible, right? That can build a huge rift, right, in your contact center, because the agents will start to feed on that. And then maybe even start to believe it, even if it's not true. So if they get moved to another supervisor, there's an automatic disrespect that starts to take in. So I think that's really important too. And nobody really speaks about, kind of that aspect. The other thing is we spend a lot of time on onboarding, and what is really important, from that first time that an agent comes to your organization, and what do you do with them, right? Are there icebreakers? Are you showing them around? Or are you just trying to get them onto the phone as fast as you humanly can? And when you do that, you're going to have really, really high attrition. So what we like to do is we like to do a week of Expivia training, culture, policies, procedures, get them to meet everybody, play games, icebreakers, get them as a really, really solid group. And then once we kind of feel like, okay, these are our people, right? We're checking for culture. Do we have any mishires at this time, right? Do we have any attitude issues? Like, we're not going to deal with it at all, right? So if we think we have a good group, and most of the time our HR, because we have our culture really well defined, understands the type of individuals we want, then they will go on to program training. And for us, with a client, because we're an outsourcer, a lot of times it can be 4 to 6 weeks. So we cannot afford to make mistakes when it comes to our training. So the client will pay for that initial training. But if we lose an agent in training, if we lose an agent in the first couple weeks on the phone, then we have to foot the bill. That's one of the pluses for the client, and the minuses for an outsourcer is that we pay for all attrition training. So that's, I guess, again, one of the huge benefits that a client doesn't have to pay for when they're looking to outsource. And it's another reason that outsourcers are really trying to find the best people, right? Because our biggest expense is our people. And within that people structure, training as the biggest piece of the pie. So we want to make sure that, we don't have 20% of our staff that we're constantly churning to have to pay for training, because that causes some huge issues with our revenue. Let me just pull this up, see what ones I'm missing here. Any questions that anybody has so far as I kind of go down my list here? I just see one kind of mean comment that call centers are just apology machines these days. Customer service is dead in the United States, which I don't really even know what that means. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. All right. Let me pull this up. Okay. Some of the other, questions we look at each call center's policies and their procedures. So what you allow, again, getting back to kind of that first question, what do you allow, what do you not allow? What are your policies on late? What are your policies on an agent that just consistently is coming back late from lunch or late from break? Right? Do you have things that are defined? One of the biggest mistakes that I see contact centers make is making things very subjective, right? When they need to have everything down written so that there's no questions on what's going to happen, right? So this needs to be trained as well with the associates. So if you say, hey, listen, if you're late by more than 10 minutes, 3 times in a week, we're going to have to, suspend you or whatever that is, right? That stuff needs to be extremely well defined. You don't want to be having a supervisor or an HR manager, kind of playing favorites and, oh, okay, you're okay, but you get a 3-day suspension, or, those are, again, they're culture killers. So doing a lot of this work, up front, I think it can really, 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 really kind of help and save the culture of your contact center. So again, that's just a couple of the questions that we ask. I think, if you take the time to really think about some of these things, you're not doing all of them. I mean, we're always struggling to get better at each of these, type of cultural questions, technology questions, training questions, policies, procedures. They're constantly evolving. And you have to really stay on top of it and have people that are really thinking this through. So even if you take, again, I love this kind of these last 2 weeks of the year, when you can kind of take the time a little bit, things are a little bit slower, well, depending on who you are, right? If you're a retailer, it could be, totally crazy. But for the most part, to kind of think things through a little bit and see if that can, what you can do to kind of help your center. So I hope that helped you guys a little bit.